Okay, so we're going to take a little more time to talk about x and y intercepts with graphing and word problems. I think we need just a little bit more work in this area. So we're going to start off with this example here. Hopefully we know already that this is ax plus by equals c, or standard form, right? And they're all in whole numbers. That's a positive, so that makes it standard form. So we know that this makes a line now. If it's in standard form, we know it's linear. So we can graph this by finding our intercepts. And we've talked about this a little bit with our Carnegie activity, and some of you guys were a little fuzzy on it still. But in order to cross the x-axis here, the y must be 0, and the opposite is true for y. In order for it to be here, y must be 0, or x must be 0. So like if it was a point here, that would be 0, 5, right? That's the x-intercept, or y-intercept. I'm having a hard time talking, right? So the only way that a point can be on this line is when x has the value of 0. If x didn't have the value of 0, it would be over here, and then it's not an intercept of the y-axis. Therefore, it's not it. So x has to be 0. When we have a point down here, my x has a number, but my y has to be 0, okay? Here would be 4, 0, 5, 0, 6, 0. So in order to be an intercept where it's on the x-axis, the y must equal 0. If it were not 0, if it were a number, it would be off the x-axis, be above it or below it or wherever it is, right? So the key here is to find when we have the x-intercept, which means, and sometimes I wonder if you guys get confused on this, the x-intercept is when it's on the x-axis. My y has to have a value of 0, okay? When we're dealing with the y-intercept, and again, that means it's on the y-axis, x has to be 0 for the reasoning over here, okay? So we need to kind of master this concept here, okay? So we're going to look at this standard form problem here. I need to graph it, and there's two ways I can graph it. I can find the x and y intercept and draw a line, or I can subtract and divide, put it in slope-intercept form. But today we're going to concentrate on x and y axes, okay? So get me some more space here, because I know you put those on your notes already. So if I replace x with 0, I can find the value of y. So 0, this just becomes 12 times 0, or 0. 0 minus 9y is just minus 9y, which equals 36. And then we divide by negative 9. And I know my y value is negative 4. Therefore, the y-intercept is 0, negative 4. It's very important that you can write this as a coordinate. It's confusing for some of you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put a point at 0, negative 4, right on the y-axis, right? All right, then we're going to find the x-intercept. So in order to find the x-intercept, I must replace the y with 0. So 9 times 0, so we'll get 12 minus 0, which is 12 equals 36. And then I divide by 12. Oh, I forgot my x, sorry. A little confusing. I divide by 12, and my x is 36. Oh, gosh, hard time today, I'm sorry. My x is 3, right? Yeah, 3. All right, so when I write that as a coordinate, my x is 3, and my y is 0. So if I go over 3, that's right on the x-axis. So that's my x-intercept. And then I just very simply draw a line. Simply, it's not doing it. Nothing's simple, right? All right, so we'll just draw a line between those 2 points. And I have the line of this equation. Okay, so we plug in 0 for x and 0 for y. All right, so I'm going to have you give this a try on this one. I realize you can't turn in a graph, but I'd like you to find the x and y intercepts and then go ahead and graph this in your notes, and we'll look at it tomorrow. Look at your graphs, but go ahead and answer the questions too. Then we also have to deal with x and y intercepts with word problems. Okay, so the first thing we do is set up the equation. So if I look at this particular word problem, Darla has $75 to spend at the bookstore. She decides to buy books and magazines. So that's my clue that my two variables are going to be books and magazines. And we know that books cost 16, magazines cost 8. And this is write an equation for this situation where B is the books and M is the magazines, right? So we can have 16 times the books plus, it was 8 times the magazines. Okay. Then it says if Darla buys 2 books, what is the greatest number of magazines she can buy? Show your work, explain your reasoning. Well, we know she only has $75 to spend, so we're going to add that to our equation. And then we know she's buy 2 books, so that means B is equal to 2. So I'm going to put in 16 times 2 plus 8m. So that's going to give me 75 equals 32 plus 8m. So I'm trying to figure out how many magazines, which is m. So we're just going to solve for m. So I'm going to subtract my 32, and I will have 40. Is that 43? Equals 8m. We divide that by 8. And then, let's see, m goes in there, or 8 goes in there 5 times, right? With some left over. But that wouldn't be enough to buy another magazine. So we know we can buy 5 magazines if she buys 2 books. Okay? So now this is asking you for an intercept without really saying it, right? If Darla buys no magazines, what's the greatest number of books she can buy, right? So if she's buying no magazines, you know, we can just imagine, we use B and M, but really this is X and Y. So if we're buying no magazines, we would put 0 here, which really means we're finding the x-intercept, okay? So again, I can take my same problem here, and we're going to be 16B, but no magazines, right? Is my head getting in the way here? I hope not. I keep forgetting about my head space. All right, so then that's 0. So we just know that that's going to be 75 equals 16b, and we divide that by 16. And I know b goes into there. So that's going to give me about 4.6 here. So seeing you can't buy part of a book, we would say 4 books. All right, so now for you, I want you, since this was the x-intercept, I want you to find the y-intercept, which would be when there are no books to buy, but you want to buy magazines. And then we will discuss tomorrow. Good night.